The Forgotten Alliance. The darkness of space around Earth seemed peaceful that morning, but Admiral Sarah Chen knew better. Standing in the command center of Luna Station, she watched the holographic display show dozens of red dots moving steadily toward Earth's solar system. The Zephyrian Empire had finally come, just as intelligence reports had warned for months. "Ma'am, the enemy fleet will reach Earth's orbit in 6 hours," reported Lieutenant Commander Torres, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Their numbers are overwhelming." Sarah nodded grimly. 300 warships, each, one capable of burning continents. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past decade, and their reputation for ruthlessness preceded them across the galaxy. They showed no mercy to planets that resisted, turning entire worlds into lifeless rocks floating in space. What puzzled Sarah most was not the size of the fleet, but the confidence of its approach. The Zephyrians were not attempting stealth or strategy. They came openly, boldly, as if Earth posed no threat at all. In the command center's subdued lighting, she could see the worry etched on every face around her. Earth's defense fleet consisted of only 50 ships, and while they were well-built and well-trained, the mathematics of the situation were cruel and simple. "Admiral," came another voice from across the room. Dr. Marcus Webb, the station's chief, phytobiologist and diplomatic advisor, approached with a concerned expression. "I've been monitoring Zephyrian communications. They're referring to Earth as an isolated backwater, and humanity as the species without allies. They seem to believe we're completely alone out here." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy had indeed forgotten. For 500 years, Earth had maintained radio silence with its most important ally, following an ancient agreement that both species had honored without question. The rest of the galaxy assumed that humanity's brief moment of galactic relevance had passed, that Earth had retreated into peaceful isolation after the Great Cosmic War centuries ago. They were wrong. Dr. Webb continued. "The Zephyrians have been studying our recent conflicts. They note that in every crisis over the past century, the Martian Rebellion, the Jupiter mining wars, the Titan independence movement, humanity fought alone. No allies came to help us. No foreign fleets arrived to support our cause. They've concluded that we have no friends among the stars. Let them think that." Sarah replied quietly. She moved to a secured console and placed her palm on the biometric scanner. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a crystalline device that seemed to contain swirling galaxies within its transparent depths. "Dr. Webb, do you remember the stories your grandmother used to tell about the time Earth saved the Voidwalkers?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Everyone knows those stories, Admiral, but most people think they're just legends now. The Voidwalkers haven't been seen in 500 years." Sarah carefully lifted the crystalline device. It was warm to the touch and pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to her presence. "They haven't been seen because they've been keeping their promise, just as we've been keeping ours. The memory of that first contact was preserved in Earth's most classified archives. 5 centuries ago, when humanity was still taking its first tentative steps into deep space, they had encountered something impossible. Ships that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time, crewed by beings that could manipulate the very fabric of reality. The Voidwalkers were fleeing from an ancient enemy, a cosmic horror that devoured entire dimensions. Humanity, barely capable of interstellar travel, had done the impossible. Using nuclear weapons, gravitational manipulation, and sheer desperate courage, human forces had helped the Voidwalkers destroy their pursuer. The cost had been enormous. Whole fleets lost, entire colonies sacrificed, but the threat was ended. In gratitude, the Voidwalkers had made a sacred pact. They would withdraw from galactic affairs, allowing humanity to find its own path among the stars. But if Earth ever faced extinction, if humanity's survival was truly threatened, they would return. The crystalline device was the key to that. Promise, a quantum communicator that could reach across dimensional barriers. "Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Torres called out urgently, "the Zephyrian fleet is accelerating. They'll be here in 3 hours, not 6. Sarah held the device higher and it began to glow more brightly. Then it's time to call in an old debt. She pressed her thumb to a small depression in the crystal's surface. Instantly, the device blazed with brilliant light, sending waves of energy that passed through the station's walls as if they were made of air. The communication traveled faster than light, faster than thought, reaching across the barriers between dimensions to find beings who had been waiting patiently for 500 years. All defense stations, this is Admiral Chen, she broadcast to Earth's fleet. Prepare for Allied arrival and remember, the Zephyrians think we're alone. Let's keep it that way until the very last moment. General Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the World Breaker. Watching Earth grow larger on the main screen, the small blue planet looked peaceful, defenseless, exactly as intelligence reports had described. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he reviewed the tactical display showing Earth's pathetic defensive fleet. 50 ships, he muttered, to his aide, a younger Zephyrian officer named Krekth. 50 ships against 300. The humans are either supremely confident or supremely foolish. Perhaps both, General, Krekth replied. Human psychology reports suggest they have a tendency toward irrational bravery when cornered. Vextar's 6 eyes glittered with predatory anticipation. The Zephyrian Empire had built its reputation on crushing exactly this kind of hopeless resistance. They had perfected the art of breaking a species' will to fight, of demonstrating such overwhelming superiority that surrender became the only rational choice. Those who refused to surrender were simply eliminated, their planets strip-mined and their species archived in the Empire's vast museums of conquered civilizations. General, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet, reported the communications officer. Put it through, Vextar commanded. He expected pleas for mercy, perhaps offers of tribute or surrender. Instead, the face that appeared on his screen was calm, determined, and completely unafraid. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the human female said. You are trespassing in human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Vextar's laughter echoed through the bridge. Consequences? Human, you have 50 ships. We have 300. Your entire species numbers barely 12 billion. The Zephyrian Empire commands the loyalty of over 200 species and controls resources from 1,000 worlds. What consequences could you possibly threaten us with? You'll find out soon enough, Admiral Chen replied, and closed the communication. Such defiance was actually refreshing, Vextar thought. Most species begged or tried to negotiate when faced with impossible odds. The humans, at least, would provide some entertainment before the inevitable conclusion. General, the sensor operator called out suddenly. I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the outer system. Multiple sources, very large, but they don't match any known ship signatures. Vextar moved to examine the sensor data personally. The readings were indeed strange. Massive energy signatures that seemed to flicker in and out of existence, as if the ships generating them were not entirely present in normal space-time. Debris from old battles, he decided. Or perhaps some kind of natural phenomenon. Continue the advance. But even as he gave the order, something nagged at him. The Zephyrian Empire's intelligence network was vast and thorough. They had studied human history, analyzed human conflicts, catalogued human allies and enemies. In every crisis humanity had faced in recent centuries, they had fought alone. No other species had come to their aid. No mysterious allies had appeared. From the depths of space, the humans were isolated, friendless, exactly as his reports indicated. So why did Admiral Chen seem so confident? On Luna Station, Sarah watched the approaching Zephyrian fleet and felt the familiar tingle of adrenaline before battle. Around her, the command staff worked with quiet efficiency, preparing Earth's defenses for what might be the most important fight in human history. Admiral, Dr. Webb said quietly, are you certain they'll come? It's been 500 years. Civilizations change. Priorities shift. Maybe the Void Walkers have forgotten their promise. Sarah touched the now dormant crystalline device on her belt. They haven't forgotten, Marcus. Some promises are too important to break. As if summoned by her words, space itself began to ripple around Earth's outer system. The distortions were subtle at first, like heat waves rising from summer pavement, but they grew stronger and more defined with each passing moment. On the sensor displays, new contacts began to appear, massive structures that seemed to exist partially in another dimension. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Torres. "What are those?" The first ship to fully materialize was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest Zephyrian vessel. Its hull appeared to be made of some kind of living crystal that pulsed with internal light, and it moved through space with fluid grace that defied conventional physics. Behind it, more ships appeared, dozens of them, each one unique, each one impossible by any known understanding of engineering. The Voidwalkers had returned. The price of loyalty General Vextar stared at the tactical display in stunned disbelief. The impossible ships had appeared from nowhere, materializing around Earth's solar system like ghosts becoming solid. His sensor operators were frantically trying to analyze the new arrivals, but their instruments seemed unable to properly scan the crystalline vessels. "What are they?" demanded Krecht, his voice higher than usual with barely controlled panic. "Unknown," replied the sensor chief. "The ships don't match any design in our databases. Their energy signatures are unusual. They seem to phase in and out of our dimensional space." Vextar's mind raced through possibilities. Hidden human allies, some kind of advanced defense system. But his intelligence reports had been certain. Humanity had no friends among the stars. The humans had fought alone for centuries, never calling for help, never receiving aid from mysterious benefactors. "General," the communications officer called out urgently. "We're receiving a transmission. It's not from the human fleet." "Put it through," Vextar ordered, though every instinct screamed at him to retreat immediately. The face that appeared on his screen was unlike anything in the Zephyrian Empire's extensive xenological databases. The being had features that seemed to shift and change as he watched, as if it existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that made the ship's hull vibrate. "I am Kixith, fleet commander of the Voidwalker Armada," the entity said. "By ancient pact and sacred oath, we stand with humanity. Your presence here threatens our allies. Withdraw or be destroyed." For the first time in his military career, General Vextar felt genuine fear. The Voidwalkers. He had heard whispers of them in the deepest archives of the Empire. Stories dismissed as legends from the galaxy's distant past. Beings that could manipulate space-time itself. Warriors who had fought cosmic horrors beyond imagination. "This is impossible," he muttered. "The Voidwalkers are myths. Ancient stories told by primitive species." On the screen, Kixith's expression shifted in what might have been amusement. "Many things seem impossible until they happen, General. Your species has 30 standard minutes to begin withdrawal. After that, we will demonstrate exactly why the Zephyrian Empire should fear what it does not understand." The transmission ended, leaving Vextar's bridge in tense silence. Around him, his officers waited for orders, but the general found himself paralyzed by the magnitude of the situation. His 300 ships were formidable against conventional enemies, but the Voidwalker vessels defied every principle of known physics. "General," Kreketh said carefully, "perhaps we should consider tactical withdrawal. We can return with reinforcements, develop countermeasures." "No." Vextar's mandibles clicked decisively. "The Zephyrian Empire does not retreat from primitive species and their imaginary allies. If these Voidwalkers want to fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget." He turned to his tactical officer. "All ships, prepare for battle. Target the largest of the unknown vessels first. Show them the true power of the Empire." On Luna Station, Admiral Chen watched the developing situation with a mixture of awe and determination. The Voidwalker ships were even more magnificent than the old archives had described, their crystalline hulls catching and reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed to tell stories of ancient battles and distant worlds. "Admiral," Dr. Webb said softly, "are you seeing the energy readings from those ships? The power levels are off the charts. Each one of them could probably destroy our entire defense fleet single-handedly. Sarah nodded, but her expression remained grim. Power always comes with a price, Marcus. The Voidwalkers are keeping their promise, but this will cost them dearly. Their ships exist partially outside our reality, manifesting here, maintaining physical form in our dimension. It takes enormous energy. They can't stay long. A new voice joined their conversation, seeming to come from the air itself. Admiral Chen, this is Commander Kixith. It is an honor to fight alongside humanity once again. The honor is ours, Commander, Sarah replied. What are your tactical assessments? The Zephyrian fleet is formidable by conventional standards, but they lack experience fighting dimensional warfare. We estimate 73% probability of victory, but the cost will be significant for both our forces. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. 73%. Better odds than they'd had an hour ago, but still far from certain. Commander, our species made a pact 500 years ago. We stand by that pact, whatever the cost. As do we, Admiral. As do we. The Zephyrian attack came without further warning. Energy beams and missile volleys erupted from their fleet, targeting the largest Voidwalker vessel with concentrated firepower that could have cracked a planet's crust. But as the weapons struck the crystalline ship, something impossible happened. The attacks passed through its hull as if striking a mirage. Dimensional phasing, Dr. Webb breathed. They're shifting partially out of our reality to avoid damage. The Voidwalker response was swift and terrible. Beams of coherent spacetime lanced out from their ships, striking Zephyrian vessels with weapons that seemed to age their targets centuries in seconds. Hull plating corroded and crumbled, energy systems overloaded and died, and entire ships simply ceased to exist as if they had never been built. But the effort was taking its toll on the Voidwalkers. Sarah could see their ships flickering more frequently, their dimensional stability wavering under the strain of maintaining physical form while powering such devastating weapons. All Earth Defense Force ships, she broadcast, engage the enemy. Coordinate with our allies. Today we show the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises. The human fleet moved forward with courage that surprised even seasoned Voidwalker veterans. Earth ships were smaller and less advanced than their alien counterparts, but they fought with precision and determination that spoke of generations of military tradition. Human pilots coordinated their attacks with Voidwalker vessels, using conventional weapons to exploit gaps created by dimensional warfare. Lieutenant Commander Torres, commanding the destroyer Determination, found his ship fighting alongside a Voidwalker vessel piloted by a young warrior named Zara Lynn. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, the human destroyer's missiles striking targets that the Voidwalker had partially phased out of reality. Human vessel, Zara Lynn's voice crackled over the comm system. Your species fights with honor. We remember why our ancestors made this pact. And we remember why it was worth making, Torres replied, even as enemy fire scorched his ship's hull. The battle raged for hours, neither side giving quarter. General Vexitar watched in growing horror as his supposedly invincible fleet was systematically destroyed by enemies that shouldn't exist. Voidwalker ships danced through space like living things, their crystalline forms blazing with power that made stars seem dim by comparison. But victory was not without cost. Sarah watched in anguish as human ships were destroyed by Zephyrian counterattacks, their crews dying far from home in the cold vacuum of space. The Voidwalkers paid an even heavier price. Maintaining physical form in their dimension while fighting such an intense battle was literally consuming them. She could see their ships beginning to fade, their warriors sacrificing their very existence for an oath made centuries ago. Admiral, Commander Kixth's voice was weaker now, strained by the dimensional effort. We cannot maintain this form much longer. The battle must end soon, one way or another. Sarah made the hardest decision of her military career. All human ships, final attack pattern, maximum effort, everything we have. We end this now. The combined human and Voidwalker fleet surged forward in a coordinated assault that broke the remaining Zephyrian resistance. General Vexitar's flagship, the Worldbreaker, found itself surrounded by impossible enemies that struck from multiple dimensions simultaneously. As his ship's systems failed around him, The general finally understood the truth. Humanity had never been alone. "General," Krecht called out as explosions rocked the bridge. "The hull is failing. We have to abandon ship." Vextar looked at the tactical display one final time, seeing the complete destruction of his once mighty fleet. "Send word to the Empire," he ordered. Tell them that humanity is not what we believed. They have allies, ancient ones, powerful ones." The Worldbreaker exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up Earth's sky like a second sun. In the aftermath of battle, as the surviving Zephyrian ships fled into deep space, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of Luna Station and watched the Voidwalker fleet begin to fade. The crystalline ships were becoming translucent, their warriors returning to whatever dimension they called home. "Commander Kixith," she said into her communicator. "Thank you for everything." "The debt is paid, Admiral," came the reply, though the voice was growing distant. "But the friendship remains. Should humanity ever again face extinction, we will remember this day. And we will remember you." Dr. Webb joined her at the observation window, both of them watching as the last of the Voidwalker ships disappeared into dimensional space. "The galaxy will never be the same," he said quietly. "Word of this battle will spread. Everyone will know that Earth has allies." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of history settling on her shoulders. "Good. Let them know. Let every species that considers threatening humanity understand that we are not alone. We never were." As Earth's sun set behind the planet's curve, Sarah thought about the price of loyalty. Hundreds of human lives lost, thousands of Voidwalker warriors who had sacrificed their dimensional existence for an ancient oath. The cost had been terrible, but the alternative, the complete destruction of humanity, would have been worse. In the days that followed, news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. The Zephyrian Empire, stunned by the loss of an entire fleet, reconsidered their expansion plans. Other species, some hostile and some merely curious, began to view humanity with new respect. Earth was no longer seen as an isolated backwater, but as a world with connections that reached into the deepest mysteries of the universe. The promise made 500 years ago had been kept by both sides. And though the Voidwalkers had returned to their hidden dimension, everyone knew they would be watching, waiting, ready to honor their ancient pact if humanity ever needed them again. Earth stood no longer alone among the stars, but as part of a friendship that transcended space, time, and the very boundaries of reality itself.